Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar on managing customer expectations as you restart your business. I'm Bob Hogan, the webinar coordinator today and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County. I'm going to be your host today, and our presenter is Bud Freund. More on Bud in just a minute, but first some brief information on SCORE. SCORE is a national organization with over 11,000 volunteers across the country, and we are part of the Small Business Administration, the SBA, of the federal government. Locally here in SCORE Fairfield County, we have over 130 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. And we offer three primary value-added services to small business owners. First of all, we offer free one-on-one counseling, which can be by face-to-face or in these times by video, telephone, or email. And you can access that by hitting the Request a Mentor link on our website, or you can use the bit.ly link that you see on the screen in front of you. Our second service is that we offer educational workshops and webinars like this one to the business community, and we offer about 150 of those throughout the year. And lastly, we have extensive resources on our website, including access to subject matter experts that can be at your disposal. Our next live webinar will be on Thursday, September 17th at noon, and the topic is how to invent, launch, and promote new products and services in times of great change, with Brian Matamore presenting. And you can find more specifics on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org. And if you're on our website, we also have a large number of archived webinars on the website that cover a wide range of business topics. Some useful information about today's event. We have set aside time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you have a question, please use the chat window, and you can get that by hovering on the bottom of your screen and clicking on the chat feature. And you can put that question in anytime during the webinar, and Bud will answer it toward the end. We will end our webinar on time at 1 o'clock to respect your time today. And as we've said in the chat window, the webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be available on our website within about the next day or two. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Bud Freund. Bud has been self-employed for 40 years. After graduating from Ithaca College, his national and international assignments were from corporate magazine and public relations clients. He has been providing IT solutions to homes and small businesses for over 20 years. And he currently teaches technology life skills at King and manages the Bicultural Hebrew Academy Network. As a certified SCORE mentor, Bud regularly presents technology webinars and workshops throughout Fairfield County. I'll now turn it over to Bud. Bud, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you all for joining us. Most of the work, as Bob mentioned, I do in technology. However, Bob and I do chat before and after these webinars, and every now and then we come up with something that is slightly different from my norm, let's say. In this case, our discussion is about the fact that we are in such a unique and different world that I've been accumulating what can best be described as war stories as a consumer. Like many other people, I live in Fairfield County. I shop in Fairfield County. I go into stores and I contact vendors. And as I've been doing that through pandemic times, I've accumulated a bit of a list of the things that seem to be working for me, where I'll seek people out, and the list of people that I prefer not to be working with in these current times. Bob and I have discussed in advance that this may turn into a bit of a dialogue between the two of us, because I always enjoy hearing what he has to say, and we've done this as a format a couple of other times. Bob, is there anything you'd like to add here before we dive in?
No, I think Budley, we could just dive in, but I think the main message that we'd like people to think about and take away from today is that it really is not business as usual, and to succeed in the current COVID environment, there are some things that we all need to do a little differently for our businesses to succeed.
Well, I want to start with a shout out to one of my favorite appliance and one of my favorite salespeople, a fellow named Tom. We're trying to keep this as anonymous as possible. Uh, Tom is a great salesman because he doesn't push things on us. We need an appliance. He asks us pertinent questions. Um, what's the space it needs to fit into? What's your price point? He'll go through a laundry list of things. And then when we're done telling him what we're looking for, he will start to show us what our options and choices are within the price range that we set. The other thing that I have taken an enormous liking to about Tom was that the last time we went in, we said, our television just died. We need to get a new one. And Tom said, I'm not the guy you want to talk to. Louis here in the store, he's the guy you want to talk to. Let me chat with him for just a minute, and then I'm sure he'll have a moment to speak with you. And as I'm sure you know, to have somebody trying to sell to you when they really don't know and they're just trying to make a commission, it will turn you off. It will convince you to go somewhere else the next time you need to do a purchase, and whatever it may be. Now, being stuck at home, we've got an exercise machine, which we hadn't done any maintenance on in quite a while. And my wife and I said, boy, it would be a bad thing if this machine decided to stop working. So we put out our feelers to the manufacturer, as well as a couple of other people we know, to find out who would be a good person to do the repair on this machine. And as you know, everything today is so different. Rather than the time that you would take on the telephone or to go and meet somebody or to have somebody come to your house, a lot of stuff goes in email. And these were 3 different people that I contacted. And the first 2 people were recommended by the manufacturer. There are typos. There isn't too much hello, how are you? There's very little engagement. And then I come down to Jason, who I got referred by someone else and asked him a question. And when it was all said and done, when you look at these 3 emails to say, I need to get the work done, and 2 of them are looking to figure out how they're going to get through my door to take my money. And Jason is telling me exactly what he's going to do. He's telling me what it's going to cost. He's letting me get a comfort level to know that he's going to be worried about my health and safety as well as his. And that was the fellow who ultimately came in to do the work. Bob, if there's any shout outs you want to do along the way, jump in, please.
Yeah, I think what I would add to this one would be that in general, communication by email can be pretty cold and stark, and particularly given that we have to do a lot more by email and online right now, I think you can see from these 3, real life examples is the Jason who reached out and tried to have some rapport and personalized it, and it didn't look like he was just trying to bang it out in 30 seconds, got the work. So again, email can be a pretty stark media to work with, and I think the more you can personalize it and try and build some rapport, it will serve you well.
So again, pre-pandemic, I had a fan in one of the bathrooms stop working, and I got a referral on an electrician who, good referrals. They came in, and all I needed was to have my fan fixed. However, as part of their business process, the fellow who came through the door with an assistant said to me, would you like us to do a safety inspection? It's at no cost. And by the phrasing, it's electricity, safety, no cost, sounds good to me. And 1 hour later, the electrician had compiled a laundry list of other jobs that he could potentially do. Then it was another hour and a half to 2 hours to actually get the fan fixed. And then at the back end of it all, I had to go through another 15, 20-minute sales call to not only tell me that the fan had been repaired, but here were the things that they had found around my house, and it was important to consider. And if I wanted a salesman to come to my house, I would have called for a salesman. If I want an electrician to come to my house, especially at this time where I want you in, I want it fixed, I want you out, the notion of spending an hour of my time in my house poking around, trying to find some other thing that will hopefully net out another job for you, I'm not sure that that's going to be a viable business practice for quite some time. Bob?
Yeah, I think it's classic case of the bait and switch. And I think if you're a service vendor, like in the service business, like an electrician or a plumber or anything like that, you know, the message is do high quality work, please your customer, do what they want, and really, you know, think about the times we're in with the safety protocols and whether it's masks and trying to social distance and whatnot. So the last thing you want to be doing, I think the error in this guy's ways was he just stuck around for a long time and he wasn't wanted.
Had another repair person coming to the house, using modern technology, letting me know that he was on the case and he was going to be there. And that 15 to 20 minutes turned into more like an hour. And I waited because I was a captive audience. And if something's broken, as you know, you really want to have it fixed. So if you are doing work and staying in communication with your customers and you're telling them that you are going to be at their house at 10 o'clock, be at their house at 10 o'clock. If things run late, and in the world of technology, I have said to many people, everything takes longer than anticipated. But if I know that I've got a place to be in the morning, and my morning job is going to take me longer than I anticipated, I am notifying my afternoon job that I might be running late, because if I don't, they're going to wonder either what happened to me, did I forget them, what's going on? And especially in today's world where everybody is very conscious of other people in their space.
Yeah,
Bob?
I think the message here is like the title of the slide. It's over deliver. So when you're giving time estimates, which is what this one was, tend to give a longer time estimate than you think it's going to be. So if you can be there in an hour and show up in 45 minutes, you are exceeding their expectations. But if you tell them 30 minutes and you show up in 45, you have not met their expectations. So again, it's some basics, but I think it's even more important in the times we live in as people are at home.
So like many people in the very early days of restaurants being reopened, we have places that we like to patronize and obviously couldn't go into the restaurant, but everybody was doing takeout and everybody was figuring out how they were going to do their takeout. And we contacted one of our regular places, and there's 4 of us in the house. We placed an order for 4 people. I drove to the restaurant, paid by credit card, picked up the bags that were with my name on them, drove home, took everything out, and my daughter says to me, "Where's my dinner?" To which I called the restaurant to say, oh, there was a third bag that wasn't there. And that's when the steam starts coming out of your ears, because now you've got to drive back to the restaurant, pick up this third item, and drive home again. And knowing that we were in a very new and different environment, rather than getting upset with the restaurant owner and being a SCORE mentor trying to suggest to a business that there may be a better way to do things, I got into the restaurant and I said to the guy, it would be helpful if on the bag that you've put my food in, you put 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, and now I know I need to pick up 3 bags. Whereas if you just put my name on it and I only saw 2 bags, then I took that and now I've got to double back. To which the person at the restaurant that I was speaking to said to me, well, they were all together. To which I said to myself, they may have been all together, but obviously I must have missed something. And in making a suggestion to you about what may be a better way of providing service to your customers, you clearly didn't hear me. And we are not in a time where anybody has a really good frame of reference that they can refer back to, because nobody's been here before. So that keeping an open mind and an open ear and worrying about your customer and how to best service them, your customer may have a suggestion or solution that may be of value.
Yeah, and I think even if, and Budley, I think even if you're in business and you don't particularly think the suggestion is viable or workable, I think the important thing to do for your customer is to acknowledge it, thank them for the suggestion and apologize and that kind of thing. And again, you will likely keep that customer because the rapport is there. If you just kind of blow it off and say, oh, they were together, like what's in this one, you're unlikely to come back, and that customer's unlikely to come back, and you're going to lose that customer. So again, rapport is at a real premium in today's environment because we don't have as much personal contact as we would normally. This was a takeout, a pickup situation rather than a dine-in, and you only get very, very short spans when you can interact with the customer. So make the most of it, acknowledge them, thank them for their constructive suggestions, and I think your business will be far better off for it.
And that's whether you use the suggestion or not. And as a footnote, we haven't done takeout from there since. I work with a lot of IT people, and as many know, IT is a language unto itself. And some people who speak the language speak it in a very short sentence, and other people speak it in a very long sentence. In today's environment, in chatting with other people that I work with, the comment that I've heard about the staffers in IT is that nobody has the time to listen to these long-winded explanations. So we're all in Zoom. There is something I've been reading about more and more called Zoom fatigue. People do get tired of being on screen, and the screen starts to get blurry, and people start to get tired of staring at your screen. According to my eye doctor, we don't blink as much. Our eyes get dry, and it's not particularly good. So think about that stuff that you want to say. Make it a really clear, simple, direct statement, and also understand that in this world of Zoom, yes, you do get to grab the mic, but there are other people who you've been working with who you need to share that mic with as well. Bob?
Yeah, I think it's just it's being conscious of the media and the environment that we're in. It's very it's almost an art to operate in Zoom, and I think we need to be, just be cognizant of that, and not speak over people, and to not monopolize the conversation. And I think so. The slide says it all. I think it's be succinct.
So, those of us who live in Stamford got a phone call on Friday from the mayor telling us that they have been monitoring wastewater and the sewage in town. And based on the information that they are getting scientifically, they were giving us a warning before the Labor Day weekend that Stamford can expect to see a spike in coronavirus cases coming up. Now, I have the second screenshot to let you understand that this is not unique to Stamford. This wastewater testing is going on throughout the country, and at University of Arizona, where they were doing their monitoring, they locked down a dormitory with 100 people based on the wastewater coming out of the dorm. So you've got a viable situation. Friday night, we're told there's going to be a spike in coronaviruses. Well, it's a long weekend, and my daughter suggested that we make poke bowls. For those of you who are familiar with it, it's about 3 days of chopping, maybe an hour or two, but it feels like you're chopping little pieces of things forever. And the main item in this poke bowl is going to be sushi. And my daughter wanted sushi grade tuna. So I went to my local fishmonger here in town, and it was Saturday morning after this call from the mayor, and the fellow behind the counter wasn't wearing a mask. He had gloves on, and I made note of the fact that he wasn't wearing a mask, but I'm at a distance. They've got the plastic up to block. And as I'm looking at it, and I picked up fish and I got it home and I mentioned it to my wife, she said, I'm not going to eat this. There's too big a question and a risk in the fact that this fellow wasn't wearing a mask. There's no need to risk this. And I sent a note, an email to the store saying your people weren't wearing masks behind the counter, and I probably won't be back. I went to a different fish store and found the people behind the counter in masks with gloves. Very pleasant, and that was what we had for dinner, instead of putting ourselves at risk. Bob?
Yeah, I think, here's one that's really different, right, during COVID times, and I think people really have a heightened sense of it, that you want to be complying with all of the safety protocols that are out there, whether it's wearing masks, social distancing, wearing gloves, and if you're in the food industry, all the more. And I think customers have a choice. There's a lot of eating establishments out there, a lot of shopping places, and which one would you go to? Would you go to the one where the staff wears masks, or the one where the staff doesn't wear masks? And again, I think the message here is, know what the rules are, make sure that you're complying with those, and make sure that you're visibly complying with those, and that your customers know it. And I think otherwise you're going to lose business. And I think, here's one small example of a lost client.
And to just put a footnote to that, on the door to get into the shop is the sign that says, I must wear a mask. So yes, they understand what the rules are, but if, as Bob was saying, you're in the food business, particularly in the fresh fish business, and especially in the raw fish business, you may want to go above and beyond in the safety that you leave your customers feeling that you're concerned about and trying to do. Another food service item, this is a little known fact, was that Fairway at one point in time had a kosher kitchen. The woman who had set it up used to have a shop in the JCC in Stamford, and she parted ways with her partner and went down to Fairway, set up this kosher kitchen. And it was, while she was there, it was really very good. Reliable. There's rules to the game in kosher, and I'll spare you the details. In any event, a couple of years ago, we had a family event that was going to be happening, for which we had ordered kosher food. I was driving up to Boston to pick up my daughter from school to bring her back. I was on the Merritt Parkway. The telephone rings. Woman from the Fairway Kosher Kitchen Department says to me, "If you do not give me your credit card right now, we are not going to fill your order." And I said, "Well, first of all, I'm on the Merritt. There's no place to really pull over. Can I do this when I get to a rest stop area?" And she said, "No, I need it right now." I said, "But do you understand that as a kosher kitchen, you have a captive audience? Why would you do this to a captive audience?" She said, "Well, that's the way we operate now. If you don't give me your credit card, we will not fill your order." So I pulled off the road. I gave her the credit card, and I, again, never called Fairway to do any kosher catering. Now, I'm not going to suggest to you that my not doing business with Fairway was the cause of Fairway going bankrupt and the Fairway at the south end of Stamford closing. However, what I would suggest to you is that when the money becomes more important to your business than the service that your business is performing, you are going to be on a downward path, because your customers will figure it out and they will go elsewhere to find people who are interested in providing service to them. Bob?
Yeah, I think that's a huge message. And one that I would also take away from this story would be there was just absolutely no judgment used by this employee, no flexibility, recognizing the customer's situation. In today's times, every piece of business is important, and hanging on to the business that you have is even more important. And I think when you need to be flexible and you need to have good business judgment when, you could have had a much happier customer if that employee had said, "Sure, Mr. Freund, why don't you give me a call back in 15 or 20 minutes when you're at a rest stop?" And as a result, the difference between saying that and "No, I need it now" is the difference between keeping the customer and losing the customer. And I think this one is, we all in business need to be cognizant of things like that.
So I'm not going to tell you that you should be lying to your customers. However, I'm also not sure that you want to be sending your customers notices that your computer has crashed and whatever project you might have been working on for your customer could potentially have been ruined or not available or now needs to start back at zero. The notion of communicating with your customer and, as Bob has said, managing expectations becomes really important. And while honesty is the best policy, as I said, oversight in not so much lying, but maybe not giving exactly what was going on. I'm not sure anybody wants to hear that the dog ate your homework. If you're going to tell someone I'm going to be delayed a day, that may be a better route to go. Bob, you had mentioned a counseling session that might be a great story to share here as well.
Yeah, just along these lines, here's another a similar story, but it has a similar message. And I had a score client who was in the software business, and they had a fairly big deliverable to do. And the day before, in some of the final testing, some of the things weren't working. And the score client called me up and said, well, I don't know what to do. I don't want to move the meeting. I think I could either send them just part of the deliverable, or I could show them what I've got, but it's not very good quality. And I'm saying, stop. What's really important, particularly in this person's business where it's fairly young, is the quality of the work and the quality of the deliverable. And I said, look, at most clients are understanding you are better off to call that client up, tell them exactly what's happened. You've done some final testing. It's not where it should be, and you need a few more days to do that. And the worst thing you could do is show an incomplete or a poor quality deliverable, because that's going to reflect on the reputation of your growing business. And so we had that discussion. They called up the client. The client was understanding, gave him a few more days. And by the time he delivered that deliverable, he got terrific feedback from the client. It was just what he wanted. It was high quality. Again, it's managing the expectations in the right way of the client. But the message there is, really avoid trying to give work that is poor quality or partly done. That's one thing. And then if you're kind of making excuses that your computer crashed, that kind of compounds it. So I'm always believe you kind of tell it as it is, and your customers and clients will stay with you.
So this is a story about people in the financial service business. And for any of you who are going to financial services websites, as I'm sure you know, they can be rather broad and deep. They're complex. There's massive amounts of information. And if you need a particular piece of information that might be far easier obtained by the people that you work with than you're noodling around yourself, the hope is that the people who are in the financial service business will do exactly what their name implies and provide service to you. Now, what happened here is that I was looking for whatever piece of information on the website, and I happen to know this person a number of years. You do want to build relation with the people you work with. And I asked them if I could get whatever this piece of information was for a tax document, I think. And the first reply that I got was, well, you're really technically inclined. I'm sure that if you go noodling around on that website, you can track down that information, which I tried to do and was probably about an hour's worth of my time before I sent my second email or third saying, this isn't working for me and I can't seem to find it. And lo and behold, it turns out that somewhere between the year beginning and the point in time when I was looking for the information, an account number had changed. Now, I didn't know that. There was several accounts. The people that I work with, my expectation, and they have lots of accounts, but my expectation of them is to know what my accounts are. So to tell me to go looking for information on an old account number because I'm technically adept kind of defeats the purpose, first of all, of being in the service business. And second of all, just implies that you're either not important or there's something more important that the person you work with needs to do. They obviously were apologetic when they realized what the problem was. Not only that, but they were able to retrieve the documents and send them to me. But at the front end, if you're in a service business, provide the service. Bob?
Yeah, I think that is well said. And if I'd have got that first email, my take on this was, hey, this guy's blowing me off. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to send it to me, and that's never a good impression to leave on your clients. So I think the message is, if you're in the service business, provide the service, and your customers will keep coming back.
Bob cautioned me when I first saw this to make a disclaimer saying, please do not get lost in this graphic. We'll discuss the graphic in a moment, but what's important to understand right now in our world is that there is a massive amount of information that people can get from the internet. And you can have either Rachel or Mika set the right side of your head on fire, or you can have Sean or Tucker set the left side of your head on fire. And if you're going to be getting information online and you want to keep your customers, and you're not quite sure of whether your customers are leaning left or they're leaning right, it might not be a great idea to start expounding whatever point of view you think should be the point of view. You're entitled to your point of view. You may not keep your customer if you share it. Now, the graphic that you're looking at is from a woman who started to track how information can be measured. Are the information providers giving you skewed information or trying to provide balanced and reasonable information? And I've found that this is a fairly accurate representation of the news medias that are out and available to us these days. So take it with a grain of salt, but understand that you may want to keep your politics out of your business.
Yeah,
Bob?
I think that is the message as we go into, particularly as we go into election season here, that there's very little to be gained by, expounding on political views or even news reports that have come from either side of either extreme of this graph with your customers. So, stay to business, keep the politics out of it, and your odds of keeping your customers will go way up.
So this was an email that I and a fellow I work with received. It was an email from an employee. It is not from the business owner. The backstory is that Microsoft Hosted Exchange is an email service, and it works beautifully with Microsoft Outlook. It's extraordinarily lovely when you use a PC, a Windows computer with Outlook. When you get to Microsoft Outlook on a Macintosh, it doesn't play exactly the same way. It's not as elegant. And when you start to try and make Microsoft Hosted Exchange talk to a Gmail account, they don't necessarily play well in the sandbox together. And unfortunately, this was an employee who felt that because he wanted to use his Gmail account, he should be able to get it to work with anything and everything. And when it didn't work, not only did he get annoyed about it, but unfortunately, it was a rather colorful and typo-ridden demonstration of staying away from the keyboard. And with that in mind, one of the things that I have done over the years when I get an email like this is that I do not hit the reply button. That's the first thing I don't do. The second thing I do is that I tend to walk away from my computer and look for an adult beverage. I find that that's usually something that will have a calming effect. If I think there is a need for a reply, what I do is that I go into some piece of software, whether it's on my phone, on my computer, on a tablet, laptop, doesn't matter. I go into a piece of software that does not have a send button. And then I can start spewing as much bile as I feel is necessary, knowing that there is no way that it is going out of my computer unless I do something incredibly stupid. Then I walk away from my reply, and I probably wait an hour, 2 hours, overnight, whatever, go back, look at it, revise it, and get it to a point where the less said, the better off you are. And then if you still feel the need to hit a reply, select it from the software that has no send button, copy it, go back into your email program, paste it, and then read it 2 or 3 more times just to be sure, and then send it. Because otherwise, what happens is that you get yourself into incredible trouble. Bob?
Well, I think this email is a poster child for, if you are in business, how to lose a customer or a client. I think if a client or a customer ever got an email like this, they're never going to deal with that company again. Or the reverse is true. If you are a customer, and we all are customers, it's unlikely that this company is going to service you again if you treat them like that. So I think it's all a matter of respect, and we can all get frustrated in today's COVID times, and we can react impulsively. And I think the consequences are severe. And I think the steps that Budley has outlined in terms of cooling off and drafting and waiting to respond.
And
And
especially adult beverages, especially adult beverages.
And
But
that
maybe
that
not.
works, and we all can be much more constructive and whatnot when we take a little bit of time and don't respond impulsively. So I think the message here is don't if you want to lose customers or if you want to lose a service provider, this type of email is the way to do it.
Well, I think we've given a really good picture of some strategies and just general relations and processes that I hope you have found helpful and useful. We're happy to answer questions. If you've got technical questions and you want to throw them out as well, clearly we have some time, and I'm happy to answer them. Anything? The floor is open.
Yeah, we will use, say we have lots of time for questions. So if you have situations of your own that you maybe want to talk about, just throw them in the chat here, and we can do that. Or if you have questions impacting on how situations for your own business in terms of that you've been struggling with during COVID times here, again, we'd glad to respond to those too. So.
A few items while that's going on. On the mask side of things, the paper masks are obviously working very well for people, and not so much reusable. It's a use once and throw out. I have made it a habit of trying to find cloth masks that have a sleeve that will allow you to put a filter inside of it. Unfortunately for myself, I find that when I have the ear loops, I end up looking a bit like Ross Perot. So I've also been looking for masks where the elastic is around the back of your neck and on your head as opposed to the ears. In a few items that I've been reading about the safety and protection of those things, the filter that you can put into the mask is approximately a 72-hour use, so maybe 2 days, 3 days, give or take. And the other recommendations that I've seen about cloth masks are that if you wear it outside, wash it at the end of the day, use very hot water and some sort of an antibacterial detergent. I've been using the antibacterial dishwashing detergent, and then I hang it to dry. When you're done drying, rather than just letting them sit out, the recommendations that I've seen are either to put the masks, dry masks, in a paper bag so they're not as exposed to air circulation and there is some breathing going on. Or if you're going to put them into a plastic baggie, you may want to punch a hole of some size, nothing particularly large, just so that there can be some air circulation into and out of the bag as well. Also, there are some masks that have these little plastic filter breather things on them. And what I've been reading of late is that they are not as safe as the fully fabric masks.
Good to know. It doesn't look like we have any questions or comments, so I think we'll kind of wrap up a little bit early here, and we hope that these kind of war stories and practical examples can be helpful as you think about your own businesses going forward in these times of Zoom. Again, thank you, Bud, for today. And as a reminder, a recording of the webinar will be available in a couple of days on our website. Our next webinar will be a week from Thursday on the 17th at noon. The topic being how to invent, launch, and promote new products and services in times of great change, with Brian Matamore presenting. And again, we offer free individual counseling, so you can use the link on the screen or visit our website and click request to mentor. And if you could fill out your evaluations today, we'd really appreciate it. So again, on behalf of SCORE, thank you all for attending our live webinar today. And in closing, big thanks to Bud Freund for presenting. And stay well, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.